Hey everyone, and welcome. So, you've got that brilliant, amazing idea for a story, but you feel kind of lost, staring at a blank page, not sure how to build it? You've come to the right place. Today, we're going to break down the absolute fundamentals of how to structure a narrative and turn that little spark of an idea into a truly epic story. I mean, this is the classic problem, right? You've got this amazing concept just buzzing around in your head, full of cool characters and incredible moments. But that blank page is just so intimidating. How do you even begin to give it shape? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out.
You know, when it comes to writing, there are pretty much two main schools of thought. On one hand, you've got the architect, the person who plans out every single detail, creating this intricate blueprint before they even write word one. And on the other hand, you have the gardener, who just plants a seed, a cool idea, and kind of nurtures it, watching it grow organically. But here's the secret. It doesn't matter which one you are. Both of them still need a solid foundation to build on.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at that blueprint, what's called a treatment. Then we'll get super clear on the difference between a story and a plot, because they are not the same thing. After that, we'll dive into the real heart of it all, the character's journey, and that one single moment that changes absolutely everything. And finally, we'll tie it all together.
Okay, first up, the treatment. I want you to think of this as your essential blueprint. This is your chance to really map things out, whether you're a super planner architect or a more go-with-the-flow gardener.
So what exactly is a treatment? Well, it's basically a detailed summary of your entire story. You're not writing a full script with dialogue or anything, you're just telling the story from beginning to end in regular prose, making sure to hit all the major scenes, the big turning points, and the emotional beats.
And this one document is an absolute workhorse. It's so useful. For you, the writer, it's a guide, a North Star to keep you from getting lost. But it's also the perfect document to share your vision with a producer or a director. It's a roadmap for when you need to do big rewrites, and maybe most importantly, it's a way to work out all the kinks in your story before you sink hundreds of hours into actually writing the thing.
And look, don't just take my word for it. Even the ultimate gardener, George R.R. Martin, a guy famous for discovering his story as he goes, sees the huge value in this. He calls it a good roadmap. See, it's not a cage that locks you in. It's a map that gives you direction, but still lets you explore all the interesting side roads along the way. All right, so we've got our blueprint. The next step is to get crystal clear on two words that people use interchangeably all the time, but they mean very different things: story and plot. Seriously, understanding this difference is a total game changer.
Here's the easiest way to think about it. The story is the whole world. It's the entire map. It includes the characters, the setting, the themes, the backstory, all of it. It's the big picture. The plot, on the other hand, is the specific path you draw on that map. It's the sequence of events, that chain of cause and effect that shows us what happens and why it happens.
And a classic, tried and true way to structure that plot is something called Freytag's pyramid. It just gives your events a really satisfying shape. You start with exposition, setting the scene. Then the rising action builds all that delicious tension. That all leads to the climax, the absolute peak of the conflict, which is followed by the falling action as things start to wind down. And finally, the resolution, where all the loose ends get tied up.
Okay, but listen, you can have the most perfectly structured plot in the world, but it means absolutely nothing if we don't care. The real engine of any great story, the thing that makes us lean in, is the character's internal journey. This is the why.
And this brings me to maybe the single most powerful concept for creating compelling characters. Every great protagonist starts their story believing a fundamental lie. This is some core misbelief they have about themselves or about how the world works. It's the source of all their flaws, their fears, and their internal conflict.
And the entire point of the story, the whole reason it exists, is to put that character through the ringer, forcing them on a difficult, often painful journey to let go of that lie and finally embrace the profound truth. The plot? That's just the external machine designed to force this internal change.
Now, this journey from lie to truth, it can go in a few different directions. In a positive arc, your hero triumphs. They overcome the lie and become a better person. In a negative arc, they fail. They give into that lie and become a worse person, sometimes even the villain. And then there's a flat arc, where the hero already knows the truth. Their challenge isn't to change, but to hold on to that truth while the entire world tries to make them abandon it.
Okay, so you've got your character and you know the lie that's holding them back. Now what? Well, you need a spark. You need to light the fuse.
Every great story hinges on one single moment where the character's world is turned completely upside down.
We call this the inciting incident. It is the pivotal event that completely shatters the hero's normal life, kicks off the main conflict, and forces them to act. There is a very clear before this moment and after this moment. It is the absolute point of no return.
And a really powerful inciting incident does 4 jobs at once. First, it blows up the status quo. Second, it makes the stakes crystal clear what the hero stands to win or lose. Third, it gives us a sense of the scale of the conflict. And finally, it grabs the audience by the collar and does not let go. It hooks us.
Let's use a perfect example. The Hobbit. Bilbo Baggins is living his best life, totally content in his comfy little hole. That's his status quo. Then, bam! Gandalf knocks on the door. That single event disrupts everything. It sets up the stakes of a life-or-death adventure, and it immediately hooks us. Just like that, the story is off and running.
Okay, so we've looked at the blueprint, the path, the engine, and the spark. Now let's just pull back for a second and see how all of these pieces click together to create a powerful, cohesive narrative machine.
So here it is. This is your storyteller's toolkit. It's actually pretty straightforward. The treatment is your blueprint. The story is the what, the whole big picture. The plot is the how, the specific path through that picture. The character arc is the why, the emotional engine that drives the whole thing. And the inciting incident? That's the when, the spark that sets it all on fire.
So there you have it. You now have the fundamental tools to structure any story you can imagine. The question is no longer, where do I even start? The question becomes something much, much more interesting. Because it all starts with your character. So, what deep-seated lie will your character have to overcome?